Toughness Matters decks usually hide behind walls and defenders. But what if every time one of your big booty creatures attacked, it suddenly hit like a dump truck? That's exactly what Doran Besieged by Time does best. And when the butts start swinging, your opponents start flinching. Hi everyone, I'm Philharmonicon and welcome back to the channel. Today we're breaking down a really unique Toughness Matters deck that actively avoids the classic wall and defender strategy. Instead of hiding behind big blockers, this commander wants to turn those massive bottoms into devastating attackers. So, the bigger the bottom, the bigger the pain. It's Doran, Besieged by Time, and if you like big butts and cannot lie, providing huge buffs to creatures with those big butts and crashing in with big power and even bigger toughness, this deck is for you. Doran is a 0/5 Treefolk Druid for 4 mana, 1 generic and Abzan colors, white, black and green. They come with 2 very powerful abilities. First, each creature spell you cast with toughness greater than its power costs 1 less to cast. And second, whenever a creature you control attacks or blocks, it gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the difference between its power and toughness. What that means is, if a creature has more toughness than power, say a 2/6, Doran discounts it by 1 mana, then when it attacks or blocks, it gets +4/+4. That 2/6 suddenly becomes a 6/10. So Doran does 2 things: makes our big booty creatures cheaper and turns them into absolutely massive threats. The plan here is beautifully straightforward. First, we get a board full of creatures with massive toughness. Then, get Doran online. And finally, turn those huge toughness creatures sideways and let math do the rest. Traditional Toughness Matters decks lean heavily on defenders and need extra pieces like Assault Formation just to attack. This deck avoids that bottleneck. We want creatures that can already swing, no permission required. These are the creatures that make the deck tick: huge toughness, massive stat differences, and incredible synergy with Doran. Bator, Kin to All, rewards you for stacking absurd toughness. At 10 total toughness, you draw a card. At 20, you untap all your creatures. And at 40, you start absolutely nuking life totals. This deck hits those thresholds surprisingly fast. Indomitable Ancients has an 8-point difference between power and toughness. That's a discount plus a gigantic combat swing with Doran online. Ikra Shadiki, the Usurper, has a 4-point difference and gains life equal to a connecting creature's toughness. When your creatures are swinging in with 12 plus power, your life total skyrockets. Kolfana, the Last You, gives you resilience. Whenever one of your creatures dies, you can return another creature with lesser toughness to your hand. Since everything here has massive toughness, recursion becomes easy. Tree of Perdition and Tree of Redemption do have Defender, yes. Unfortunate, but their toughness values are absurd. Redemption can completely stabilize you, and Perdition can nuke someone's life total down to something very uncomfortable. Fangorn Tree Shepherd has a 6-point stat difference and generates huge bursts of green mana. In this deck, that often turns into a massive tempo swing. Treefolk Harbinger tutors a treefolk or forest to the top of your deck for just 1 mana. Early setup, and later it attacks as a 3/6 with Doran on board. The Walls of Ba Sing Se sadly has Defender, but it grants your board indestructible. And if you do remove Defender, it becomes terrifying. Treebeard, Gracious Host is just sufficient. 4 mana for a 5/10, and incidental life gain fuels +1/+1 counters. Weathered Sentinels buffs itself naturally and is always ready to block. And with Doran, blocking is just as deadly. Catapult Fodder and its flip side Catapult Captain flips once you have 3 creatures with bigger toughness than power, which is trivial here. The Captain's side can sacrifice a creature to deal damage equal to its toughness. That's an alternate win-don. Bosk Banneret and Nyx Fleece Ram are excellent early plays. They block efficiently, and Banneret even discounts Doran. Unhallowed Phalanx becomes a 13/25 in combat. That's nuts. And then there's Zetalpa, Primal Dawn, flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. With Doran, it becomes an 8/12. That's 16 double strike trample damage, and thanks to life gain, that's 16 life gained. And it's still untapped to block. Since our creatures get buffs in both power and toughness, we can make our toughness mean even more. The next few cards all make your creatures deal combat damage equal to toughness. Doran the Siege Tower is the original, and it has a big stat difference. It's thematic and powerful. Felithar the Steadfast can sacrifice a creature to draw cards equal to its toughness. She's also one way to remove Defender from other creatures. Bolden, Century Herdmaster, scales toughness based on your hand size. More cards equals more devastation. Bedrock Tortoise is a 0/6 that protects your permanents with hexproof on your turn. Ancient Lumbernot is more redundancy and another efficient body. Assault Formation allows your defenders to attack and can pump toughness. Halti the Sun's Heart gains life when you tick her down equal to the greatest toughness among creatures you control. These next cards are just great support. Tower Defense and Bar the Door massively increase toughness across the board before Doran's buff triggers. These are often lethal out of nowhere. And Jaws of Defeat gives you an alternate win con by pinging your opponents equal to the difference between power and toughness when a creature enters. Here are a few ways to keep the gas flowing. Fecund Greenshell ramps, draws, and buffs all in one package, and it has really big toughness compared to its power. This is great synergy. Sapling of Kolfner draws and gains life on attack while fitting perfectly into the stat theme. Oran Frostfang gives Death Touch and draws cards whenever creatures connect. It also becomes huge. Last March of the Ents is absurd. Draws cards equal to the greatest toughness you control, and then it dumps all your creatures in hand onto the battlefield. That ends games. Welcoming Vampire and Beast Whisperer reward creature casting. Whisperer is especially strong. Runic Omnisaur and Abzan Beastmaster provide steady value. And Sinister Nullbark is a 0/4 that can convert toughness into cards every turn. Abzan has premium removal, but here's the synergy package. Slaughter the Strong makes everyone choose up to 4 total power to keep. We barely feel it, while our opponents feel the pain. Fell the Mighty is practically a one-sided board wipe. Expel the Interlopers wipes high-power creatures, which doesn't hurt us as much as our opponents. Dusk and Dawn destroys big power creatures and later returns our low power creatures back to our hand. Grim Contest is basically a fight spell that deals damage equal to toughness, which in this deck is huge. Then we round out everything with staples like Swords to Plowshare, Path to Exile, Assassin's Trophy, Anguished Unmaking, Beast Within, and Generous Gift. We're in green. We don't struggle for ramp. Great Forest Druid is a mana dork that becomes a 4/8 attacker. Arbor Adherent can tap for an absurd amount of mana. Arboreal Grazer is the ideal turn 1 ramp. It also gets pretty big. Sylvan Corrotid fixes your colors. Plus the usual suspects. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Nature's Law, Farseek, and 3 visits. And finally, a few lands that shine. Forbidden Watchtower becomes a 5/9 attacker with Doran on field. Access Tunnel makes small power creatures unblockable before they become massive. Revitalizing Repast and Sejuri's Shelter are flexible protection slots. Doran is such a unique Toughness Matters commander. They don't want passive walls, they want aggressive, big booty beasts. The deck does function without Doran, but when Doran hits the field, everything accelerates. Discounts, buffs, and combat becomes terrifying. And the main win condition, turning enormous creatures sideways and watching life totals disappear. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown, leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more synergy-focused deck techs. And hey, if you're picking up any of these cards, consider using my TCG Player affiliate link down below. And until next time, may all your creatures have bigger bottoms.